Autoline Daily is brought to you by Siemens PLM Software, transforming the process of innovation.
Here are today's top headlines. GM fights back against the Chrysler deal, Kirk Kerkorian dumps his stock in Ford, and BMW comes out with a simpler iDrive system. Up next, we'll be back with the news behind the headlines. This is Autoline Daily for Wednesday, October 22, 2008, and now the news. The Financial Times is reporting that General Motors is looking for a big chunk of cash from outside investors. This would be an alternative to GM taking over Chrysler, which, as I've been reporting here, is being forced down GM's throat by Cerberus. GM may have trouble raising the money, which presumably would come from private investors such as Warren Buffett, but at least GM is fighting back against Cerberus. Way to go, GM! Meanwhile, the Ford Motor Company is having issues of its own. Billionaire investor Kirk Kerkorian is dumping all the shares he bought in Ford. He paid $7 a share to buy and is selling at less than $2.50. Oh, that hurts. This comes on the heels of Ford's chief financial officer and 2 board members resigning. The Wall Street Journal says Kerkorian is worried that the Ford family is tightening control of the company and could impede its turnaround. BMW's iDrive is probably the most controversial electronic device ever put in a car. It forces users to go through a myriad of menus just to do simple tasks. So BMW is finally coming out with a simplified version of the iDrive on the 2009 7 Series. It's got a cluster of buttons around the knob, which looks almost exactly like Audi's MMI system, making it easier to use, relatively speaking. And speaking of new electronics technology, Wards reports that automakers are starting to move away from traditional gauges and starting to offer virtual instruments like on the Mercedes-Benz S-Class. Replacing traditional gauges with a virtual display allows customers to change the look and feel of their instruments in an almost infinite number of ways. And on that Mercedes, it's actually a projection. There are no gauges there. It's just like a movie that you're watching. Honda announced it's building a second manufacturing plant in Thailand to build the Accord, Civic, CR-V, Jazz, and the City. Honda says production will double to 240,000 units. On the heels of that announcement, Wards reports that sales in Thailand fell 10% last month due to the global financial crisis and political uncertainty. According to WWJ Radio 950, the government is investigating more than 1 million Ford vehicles for a leaky tire valve that's made by a Chinese company. The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says it's received 37 complaints of faulty valve stems, but no crashes or injuries have been reported. The valves are used on most Ford models. Well, coming up next, we'll take a look at what some of our viewers have been writing in about. We'll be back right after this.
Siemens, transforming the process of innovation.
And now it's time for some of your feedback. This is a brand new segment that we're calling You Said It. Every day we get dozens of comments and questions from you, our viewers. You Said It gives me a chance to respond. And first up today we have a question from Richard Eaton, who writes, I understand that Ford has a diesel Escort overseas that gets 46 miles per gallon, but they will not import it to the USA because of diesel prices. He says, how stupid is this, and is there any truth to it? Well, Richard, I wish I had $1 for every time someone asked me why we don't get those European diesels. But first off, Ford doesn't make the Escort anymore, but it does have diesel versions of the Focus that get terrific fuel economy. Now, there is a question as to how well diesels will sell in the U.S. because diesel fuel prices are substantially higher than gasoline, and future emission standards are going to add a lot of cost to the price of a diesel engine. Put it all together, and diesels are probably not going to make sense for most car buyers. But if the price of the fuel comes down, and if they figure out some sort of emissions breakthrough, that could change. Remember, we call the segment You Said It. If you have a question or comment you'd like answered on the air, there are a number of ways you can contact us. You can leave your comments directly on our Autoline Daily posts or send an email to viewermail@autolinedetroit.tv. But if you're feeling really creative, we'd love to see you on video. Just post your question or comment to YouTube and send us the link at viewermail@autolinedetroit.tv. And one more thing, make sure to include video comment in the subject line. Do that, and we just might respond to you on the next installment of You Said It. Anyway, that's it for the top news in the automotive industry today. We'll see you again tomorrow.
Visit our website for even more great content all week long. Autoline Extra, John's Journal, podcasts, and even more. So click over and get the inside view at AutolineDetroit.tv.